Hey, Mike, how's it going?
Good, Frank. Good to see you.
Same here.
Yep. Welcome to another episode of Perspective Shift.
The place where we shift perspectives.
Absolutely.
I don't know what the hell that means. People like, what does that even mean? I'm like, I have no idea.
A different way to look at life.
Different way to look at life because that's what we have control over.
Yeah, that's what we're here to really talk about, guys.
Yeah. So how was your week?
It was good. Busy. Busy.
Busy. Define busy for me.
Well, it's so funny. Like running. So I work in real estate. Running around, and you can so easily get lost in this.
You work in the matrix, which is in real estate.
Exactly.
You sell frequency vibration they call houses.
Oh, this is Frank and I. We love talking about this because this is my chance to escape, and chat because it's so funny when you're fully interacting, with this matrix that Frank and I talk about. It's being conscious and aware of your thinking mind and how you're running through life, right? That's like really the crux of like what Frank and I like to get at. And so like when I got here, I was telling Frank, this week has been crazy. I got clients pulling me this way, that way, et cetera. And we both kind of like looked at each other. And it's so funny because it's all mind. Your mind's pulling one way, pulling the other. And it's funny how we have the ability to slow things down, or react, and allow things to speed up and come at us. And it's funny, it's like when it rains, it pours, right? And so like I'm slammed, I'm working, and I'm like, I'm so busy, and then I get another call, and then another call, and then I just kind of, the awareness side of me kicks in, and I see all this kind of going on, and I laugh, and I seriously sit back, and I'm like, wow, Mike, you're getting so lost in the actor, and you're no longer being the witness. And it's funny because Frank and I always talk about it's the fun of getting lost in the actor. That's why we're here. But when you can witness yourself going through these motions of daily life and allow yourself to begin to enjoy the ups and the downs, that's when everything like really starts to kind of get exciting. You know what I mean?
Well, it's just it because again, coming to an understanding, we're in this field of energy. Or some people call it the matrix, whatever it is you want to call it.
Maya, the illusion.
Yeah, exactly. But the illusion actually becomes the reality, and the reality is through how we feel or hear it. Let's
talk about that more because, like, when we say matrix, what do we mean? No, we're talking about living through the thinking mind and that daily life of not understanding how you're feeling and thinking about it. Not understanding that you are creating every experience. You're living out your karma. You're living out how you think and how you feel. You're living out your vibration.
Yeah, so whatever frequency you set forth, and when I say frequency, let's break it down. If I feel good and move forth into the unknown, good things will come to me because I'm already in a state of perceiving things good. Even if it's rainy out, where some people will label, well, how is rain good, so to speak, unless you're a farmer
right.
in the Midwest and there's a dust ball coming. I need some rain. But and so we come to understand it like when you step into the unknown, and what the unknown is every day. Whatever feeling you leave your bed with is the experience you'll have. Things will happen. You don't know what's going to come at your way because there's too many variables. And when I see variables, is me, Mike, and 7 or 8 billion other people on the planet throwing into the canvas or into the matrix. And I say canvas because it's really a digital canvas, like a video game. It's coding and whatever. But yet the response from the character in it is responding based on what we call free will. But yet there's a determination of how it's going out. But I can change. I could give it free will. So it's determination and free will, not this or that. So when I look at canvas, the world around us, everyone's imprinting onto the canvas what they see or how they feel and respond. So I can't control the canvas completely, but what I can do is control how I look at the canvas. And if I'm in a good-looking mood, I'm in a good-looking mood.
You're always in a good-looking mood, Frank. Look at you, man.
I'm a good-looking mood, dude.
Love it.
Yeah. But when I'm in that state of feeling good, everything I eat tastes good. Everyone I run into, I enjoy. So when you take pause, notice what state you're in before you step forth into the unknown. Because if you step forth into the unknown aggravated, everything's going to start to multiply. So it's kind of like when you do that, all of a sudden your day becomes hectic.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh my God.
This is that feeling that creeps up on you, and it's when you can.
Yeah, but the cool thing now for me, and I'm assuming Mike is this way too. We've talked about this. That when I start getting agitated, that's the point in when I stop and take a seat, or a knee, as we call in boxing, and I take a break, because when I do that, I can actually get to a neutral state to then choose the perceived feeling I want to have as I move forward. I'm not going to change the outlook or the outcome of the outside world. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the way I feel about it, which empirically then changes the way it looks. Because that is our paintbrush. Our paintbrush onto the canvas is the emotion we're generating. People are waiting to get an emotion from the painting outside. I'm like, that's just a reiteration of an emotion. And you're actually choosing an emotion based on a past experience. So that brush stroke that you put on the canvas was already done.
So, like, along with what you're saying, and I think this is exactly the approach I take, like what you're describing. So you have to disassociate from the thinking mind. And that's really important, because when you see that the mind will continuously say, this ought to be a certain way, or you should do this, or you shouldn't do that, when those feelings arise, you see them for what they are, and you recognize, oh, of course it should be this way or it should be that way, and you see the mind at work, and so you disassociate from the thinking mind, because you understand that it's just going to get lost in that repetition. So then once you disassociate from that, you're no longer stuck in this very third-dimensional world where everything has to be a certain way, you're being judged. You see from above that, and you realize that's just mind. That is just the mind doing what it should be doing, which is simply repeating old patterns. And so we have these old patterns, and we see the pattern, and once you recognize the pattern, every time the pattern comes up in any different format, you realize, that's just the pattern, and you let go a little bit. And after time of letting go a little bit with these mind patterns of this ought to be this way, I should feel this way, I shouldn't have to feel this way, you give into it. You get the surrender of course that's mind, of course that's thinking mind. And some people, I've heard Krishnamurti call it the speaker, and I thought that was very powerful.
Yeah,
because the speaker is that's truth. We all know what the speaker is. It's that voice in our head saying, you shouldn't be treated this way. Do they know who you are? And when you realize that is simply a mind pattern, a loop, you disassociate from it, and it no longer rules you. And you're no longer in control by this mind. And it's a thinking mind. It's a mind that only knows what it knows.
And that's just it. So it's like the analogy I use to simplify this. It would almost be like, you ever watch someone do a speech, and some of the greatest speeches I ever watched people do were from the heart. And what I mean is they didn't use a prompter. They just did it, a teleprompter. So when the thinking mind is working and you're actually going into a field of something, it's like reading a teleprompter. And that's really what it is. What I'm saying is step into the unknown. Step onto the podium and speak to the audience that's around you, and that's the world around you, without any preconceived anything. And when you do that and you stay in this place, it's the most amazing, elated place, and all of a sudden words just come out of you. Stories come out of you, and then all of a sudden the people around you start connecting to you, and the environment, the trees, the woods, whatever you are, starts connecting because it realize we're all one.
That's the not knowing you were just describing.
Yeah.
That's the stepping into the unknown.
Yeah.
Saying, I know the mind is saying this, but I'm going to move forth anyways.
Yeah. And that's just it. And obviously there's an aspect of the mind or the ego, whatever you want to call it, that knows how to enunciate words. And I'll hold that in my pocket. But the words, how they come out in order and how they move into a field, I allow that energy to come through me. Now, me only knowing the English and very, very little Spanish, so I stick to using English, I've learned that. And that was programmed into the system we call the hard drive of my thinking mind, all right? But yet, when I get out into the field of the unknown, things that come out of my mouth, my response, everything, hasn't been done quite this way. Yes, I'm using certain vocabulary I've used before, but not quite the way in which I'm using it. I'm not reiterating, I'm actually creating a new. And that's the state in which exhilaration. Every child has this state when they're young. As we get older, we try to replicate and read from the teleprompter to get us nowhere. It's an old speech. Because there's no movement. If I wrote a speech and then read it several times and then head out in front of my audience, the exhilaration of the speech is lost. But it was actually hit me when I was actually probably writing it. So I've done this before where I've written stuff to go talk about people. And in the field of writing it, I felt this elation, but then I realized there's no way in hell I'm going to memorize this, or do I want to continue looking down and reading? So the feeling I had of writing it is what put me up in the podium, and I went with that, and I took the paper and threw it away. And that's the feeling it generates. So sometimes I can go off into, that's why get into that still place, that neutral place, and let the energy generate and then step into the unknown. Because if I step into the unknown angrily, I'll meet up with anger. And what does that look like? Well, it's different every day. If I step into the unknown with exhilaration, I'll meet exhilaration. What does that look like? I don't know. But there isn't one way of exhilaration. Someone might say, the happiest time in my life was when I was this age. And all of a sudden they can take a snapshot of their life, and anything outside that sucked.
The mind. This ought to be.
Yeah.
This was the best.
Yeah, and it was a feeling that they had. And what it was is, it wasn't, the feeling remains in the same place. When I get this feeling, the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. I feel this overwhelming frequency. Sometimes tears come out of my eyes. But there was nothing that happened when that happened, other than all I can tell you is I let go of something. What I let go of, I don't know. I know people throw speculations onto what it was, like letting go of this. I do that too, but the truth is I really don't know. We're just telling stories in order to move us in a direction, because like me and Mike are here talking about this, we're assuming there's going to be an audience, but we're doing it to unfold the ideas and understandings so me and Mike can unfold the ideas and understandings of what the hell we're talking about, not to know that we know everything. We know nothing.
No.
And that's the brilliance of when I come out here. I don't know. It's like, it's fun. I'll talk about something, a concept, and at the end when I listen to it, I'm like, wow, that's the first time I said that. It might be nonsense, but a lot of stuff I do say is nonsense, but it's the feeling I had as I was speaking it. I get these height moments, almost like I can imagine like rock stars that are older, like the Stones or something. The only thing that keeps them coming on stage isn't the memorization of Jumpin' Jack Flash, but it's the feeling they have, bouncing off the audience and singing that. And I imagine Mick forgets even the words, but they still come through them because they're imprinted into his mind. But the feeling is what allows them to flow differently, because if you ever see the Stones live or somewhere else, it always comes out slightly different anyway. There's never the same point or hit. They might slow it down, speed it up. He might, do, ad-lib based on the audience, and then everyone just falls in line. So the audience might have started why he changed it, but the reason they continue to do it is they know when they step on stage, it's the unknown. Even though they've sang these songs, the set they're playing, they've done many times, but it's never done this way. And that's the brilliance of it. So you don't need to learn a new language or move to a different town or get new friends. You just you say what you've never said the way in which you do by being present, and that's it. And it's the most amazing feeling in the world. And then it's like, oh my God, what did you say? That was amazing. I'm like, it's not so much what I said, because I can make a T-shirt out of it and we can laugh at it. It's how we felt is what we hold on to. If we stop holding on to the words but hold on to the feeling, we'll get it. Because words will never explain how great sex is, but only having sex will get you there. But, you can talk about it. It might sound some bit of perversion in the society in which we look at, but it's not. it's an ultimate frequency or feeling.
Well, that's the thing.
But talking about it,
Well,
sometimes talking about it can be some
the thing, like with any
type of foreplay.
sexuality, homosexuality, all of that, it's all mind. It's
those are
it's
just
simply
ideas.
Sex.
Those are just ideas.
It is just sex.
Yeah.
On any level.
And it's funny because
it is what it is.
what creates the
Everything else is your mind putting an impression on
Yeah.
it and turning it into an idea of something because of what we've seen culturally or growing up or whatever you want to say. Those are all conditioned ideas. Sex is sex.
Well,
That's
yeah, and how we express it. What creates the actual, the real current or the undercurrent of society, which it pulls us down, is the labeling of anything. So what's interesting, people label stuff. So like just argument's sake, years ago, people labeled, okay, this is how things are. And then people want to add to a label, and they want their voice heard. But all you're doing is flipping the hourglass around and thinking your grain of sand is going to be on top of the other sand, but it doesn't matter. You're all connected. You're in the same hourglass. What we're trying to do is disassociate from identification. So even eventually someone that says, well, my type of person or my group of people have been disassociated and put out to the side for years, and now we're going to get a word. I'm like, okay, go for it, because when you would disassociate against or put out against, it didn't even work for the people that were in the bigger group. It didn't work for them. Just like the slave master having slaves, it didn't work for them. That's why it fell apart. It didn't work for anybody. So when we start to really look at this, it's the association, the identification to something that breaks us down. So when we can less associate, I'm a man or a woman, I'm this and that, I'm just, this is who I am. I have a name, Frank, so you can identify with me. But the less I start to associate to a concept of what's been given to me, all of a sudden you see everyone's connected and separate at the same time. I understand that, Mike is taller than me. We're all the same height. We're not the same color. I understand that. My eyes can see that. But at the same time, I also see the oneness in us, the connection in us. It's kind of like the analogy.
The soul.
Yeah. What's that little visual analogy you used on me earlier with the hand in the water?
Yeah. I'm sure some people have seen this at home. So it was a hand, all right? And it was coming up out of the water, okay? And on the tips of the fingers, they were peeking out of the water, right? And on every finger, there was a little face that was drawn, a little smiley face. And so just the tips are peeking above water.
Was the thumb the shark?
Well, you see them all interacting, right? Yeah. But underwater, all are connected to the same hand, to the one being.
Yeah.
And that's truly what we all are.
And we are separate and connected, because even the fingers on the hand are having separate experiences. It's not robotic, it's separate. But yet it's one at the same time. And I know when I first heard this, it's a very tough concept to wrap your mind around. The reason being is you can't. You cannot wrap your mind around something, because it's like this finger, the tip of this finger can't touch the tip of this finger. So stop trying to wrap your mind around it and fall into the essence of it. And there is an essence of it. And it comes out in these moments when you're saying something, or you meet a stranger and you feel good and you say hi, and like all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, did I know that person before? And all of a sudden the mind kicks in and the feeling goes away. Like you don't need, did you meet on a different soul plane? Perhaps, but.
It's funny how the thinking mind, as soon as we
can rip you from this
idea,
yeah.
That's what pulls us from presence. And that's what Frank and I really are getting at, guys, when we say disassociate from the thinking mind, is you'll see yourself be, an idea will tug you in a certain way. Oh, you feel this way about it, you feel that way. But when you recognize that, you no longer allow it to tug you, and you guide and you move forth in the direction in which
yeah, and at the same time, allow yourself, be okay with association as well. Because when it's like anything, when you find out something isn't working for you, you actually then want to get rid of it, and you can't. So I fall in and out of this all day long, and I don't have any it may not happen, but I don't have any like grand gesture that I'm gonna get out of this one day. Like me and Karen were talking, it was like a couple of days ago, and we got into a little argument over something, and she got a little upset, and I'm like, hey, what are you upset for? I'm like, I remind them, like, if we had this argument say 3 years ago, it would have went a lot further, a lot deeper. I says, it only went 5 minutes. But to think I'm never going to say something stupid to get you upset is just too much pressure for me, and I'll say stupid shit all day long. But
Right.
knowing that I can say something stupid, not like antagonistic, but us guys, we say something stupid, we didn't know it was stupid until we realized that was stupid. Why? How was I supposed to know it was stupid?
It came out.
And that's why you're stupid, because you didn't know. I'm like, shit. It's like
how
this
it works.
riddle. But the fact that if I have to watch what I say, I am now walking on eggshells, and guess what I want to do is I then want to completely disassociate from the game and go live off in the woods, but I don't want to do that. But this is why
It's funny how the mind tugs like that. I know what you mean, where I'm
Yeah.
like, is it just out, go
I'm like,
meditate ever?
I'm going to go
forever
live in a
the
cabin in the woods and build bombs. No, I didn't mean that. I was just joking.
cave? We're going to take this video down?
Yeah. I was just joking. I don't even know how to build a bomb. Yeah. But so it's not about, it's actually about allowing the mind to fall into the association of things and the identification of things. And then when you allow it, you kind of chuckle out of it. And once you chuckle, you're actually letting go. So life is, I call it like the monkey bar syndrome. I don't know if it's a syndrome, but it's the monkey bar theory. And when you actually are on the monkey bars, in order to let go of the bar that you're on previous, you must be grabbing or reaching for the bar that you're heading for. So early on, like a novice will actually first grab and then let go, but there's a simultaneously movement. But if you are looking at the hand at the bar that must be let go, you're going to fall. So in this case, in the monkey bar direction, you have to look, or the monkey bar theory, you must look at the bar you're about to grab. And even that bar you're grabbing will then soon be letting go of, constantly. But there will be a moment, I believe, in human history where no bars will be need to grab. But right now, this is the functionality in the world we live in. And because of it, let's not condemn it or knock it. But understanding when I do that, that's the momentum and the flow that I'm moving towards. But I easily allow to let go so the other arm could swing around and then continuously move.
And that's perfect because, just like if you ever driven a motorcycle, I remember when I went through getting my license for a motorcycle, they taught you to look through
What kind of
the
motorcycle
turn.
do you have?
Oh, I actually had a Harley.
Oh, you had a Harley?
I did. I bought a Sportster.
Right on.
I had it for only 2 years.
All right. Right
Yeah,
on.
if that.
Right.
But it was fun. It was cool to learn on. I
Yeah.
rode it. Got to
Fonzie.
get a hang of it. Well, it was cool. Learned how to work on a bike.
Yeah.
But they would teach you to look where you were turning. You turn. You look through the turn.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's really what this is all about. You're looking. You understand there's noise. Yes, you're aware of noise, but you're looking towards where you're going and knowing. All right, this is where
That's
I'm going
where
to
you
end
go.
up, and that's how you can move and achieve your quote unquote goals.
And how do you know to look in the direction
then
in
you
which you
see
want to
everything's
move?
just a play.
Yeah, and this is how we learn. How do you know to look in the direction in which you want to move?
Well,
Because when you looked in the direction over the handlebars, it was very difficult to turn. So you learn by actually not moving in that direction. So by holding onto the monkey bar, I'm at a stalemate in the movement. But I learned that. So it's almost like one almost has to do it to learn it. So that when I do that, don't knock it.
Mm-hmm.
Just realize, I learned something today.
Well, in what the with the monkey bar theory, with turning through
The
the
monkey
looking,
bar theory.
Well, but
that
I'm
we
just saying-
just made that up today.
Oh well, I like that.
The monkey bar
but
theory.
it's true.
I called
You
it a
can't-
syndrome at
You can't
first.
if you're looking back. A syndrome.
Syndrome.
Nice.
It's a syndrome.
Well, no, but that's truly what you need to do, and the same. It just applies with so many things. But that is what Frank meant when he was talking about stepping into the unknown, and this is what
Yeah.
we're talking about when we say disassociating from the thinking mind. In order to moving into the unknown is moving past the thinking mind saying, this is how it's going to be, this is how you feel, this is how you should feel, that's not good, this is right. That it's moving past that, knowing, Okay, I'm going to disassociate from the thinking mind. I'm going to disassociate from the thinking mind. It's going to always do that.
Yeah.
It's going to continue playing in my head. This is the same thing, guys. Like, you're never going to have as much money as you want. Why? Because as soon as you get as much as you think you want, you then want more. This does not stop at any age.
Yeah.
And when the sooner you understand or you come to grips with that and say, oh, it's going to be way better when I have $1 million. No, because when you do obtain that $1 million, you'll have different problems in different areas where you're always playing catch up, where now you're keeping up with the neighborhood, the Joneses, now you got credit card bills. You have to go within in order to find peace out here.
Yeah. And when you do, you will achieve
Absolutely.
the $1 million house. And,
Absolutely. It's inevitable.
But what it is when the $1 million go or flees, you don't chase it because you know the stream of water continues. You'll never do without. It doesn't mean you'll have ups and downs. Well, you will have ups and downs, but you enjoy all the ups and downs. You don't run from them because you can't run from them.
A lot of people start doing this type of practice to get more out of life. I want a better job. I want a better relationship. I want all this. And then when you start to do this work, it is solely dependent on you and going with everything starts within.
Yeah.
And it's all how you're looking at life. And so any problem that you're experiencing out here in what you're calling reality, in what we're calling the Matrix, Maya, the illusion. The reason we call it the Matrix, Maya, illusion is because it changes based on how we're thinking and feeling. Not extremely drastically where this wall is going to be red,
it's just representations of different ways.
And how you feel when you get in certain situations and the type of situations that come at you and the type of people you run into. All of that, we're just a vibration, guys.
Yeah.
On a scientific level, if you can disassociate from all what we're seeing and just picture everyone as the light energy we are.
Yeah, when you break down life,
we're just a vibration frequency.
The smallest aspect of life is what we call an atom. And they even the physicists will tell you that an atom is 99.99% empty. So there's this energy field, like electromagnetic field, that surrounds the atom, just like a magnet. So when you press up against something, it's not that you're actually touching this glass or this cup here, or whatever it is. It's the electromagnetic field, the magnet field that's pushing. So you feel the pressure, but there's space all around it. So this is a hologram. It's essentially what it is, kind of like how video games are made. But this is neither.
This is why people say we're in a simulation.
Yeah. And that's just it. And I'm not here to, get into simulation, do that. But when we start to understand the laws that govern this physical world in which we live in and go beyond the physical world which we live in, that govern the universe, you actually play the video game or simulation or the game of life, however you want to call it, better.
Absolutely.
Or I shouldn't say better, I should say greater.
Flow.
Yeah. When you understand the rules of football, everything down from the rules and regulations to how to properly tackle or how to properly throw a ball, how to properly run, you actually move in it. And you can never, and you don't wait till you're actually perfect before you step on the field. The field is actually what creates perfection because it is already perfect. And the world comes in to fool us of imperfection into it. So in other words, if I run perfectly, the defender, the linebacker, is going to tackle me and take me off my perfection. But if I stay in that state, when I get knocked off balance and keep running down the field, that becomes the most perfect thing that's ever happened. So everything is already perfect, and then we put thought onto it and we try to make it better. We take it out of imperfection to just make it perfect again. And it's an oscillating thing, perfection, imperfection, perfection,
and it's all mind.
It's oscillating. That's it. But it's not about stopping the oscillation. It's not allowing yourself to stop because perfection isn't in front of you.
Well, that oscillation, that's the karma playing out, and we're talking about resting as the awareness. This is like a 2-3 part thing that we're experiencing.
That's why there's
because
quarters in football.
Because you can witness the witness. And so you kind of see everything that's happening. You're like, wow, I'm playing this role as this character that my ego identity has created. I'm witnessing the ego identity at work.
All right.
And above, you kind of see it all flowing.
Now let's say it's probably been a while since we talked about this, and every time I talk about it, I do it slightly different. But let's talk about the laws.
Okay.
And the way I look at them, I count them as 4 laws. Different people have different descriptions of these laws, maybe a different amount or sub-amounts of them. But I'm going to basically bring it into 4, and I'm going to start off looking at it. So the first law is existence, all right? So when you look at existence, humans have talked about annihilation, and it's a very interesting thing because it hasn't. No one's experienced annihilation because we're here talking. All right? So if you exist now, you've always existed at some form in energy, not this corporeal place because this body is continuously fleeting, but the energy field that's making it go through always existed. And so I've always existed, I exist now, therefore I'll continue to exist. And that's existence. So that's a law that you can sit there all day. I can get the smartest person from MIT or whatever. They can't fight it. They might argue what existence is, and that's everyone's, impression onto that. That's their viewpoint, and again, that's their perspective, and they have a right to it. I'm not going to argue it. Then there is the one is the all is the one. And how I explain that, it's kind of like in the understanding of fractal geometry or fractal mathematics or just fractal living. There's patterns out there in the world throughout the universe that continuously replicate over and over and over and over. You can see it like, I once was watching a documentary on Jackson Pollock. And for years, like when you look at his painting, it's like a splatter type style painting and dripping painting. And I remember the first time becoming aware of this. I remember in the 80s, he resurfaced for a reason that I was too young to understand why. But I had a white shirt with one of his imprints on it because it was a cool thing to do. I didn't even know who the hell Jackson Pollock was. But it wasn't until recently they found out what drew people to his paintings. It was, if they took, say, at a canvas, it was 4x8, a painting. If they just took out a 1-inch section and they look at the signature of the drippings, that fractal made it throughout the whole painting seamlessly and endlessly. In other words, if I have a little triangle and I keep multiplying, they all become one big triangle. But if I break it down, I could have a million tetrahedrons make a big pyramid. Yes, a big pyramid. So what they realized is this man did this without any machine or anything. And he actually, I think it was, I might be mistaken, but I think it was some university. I'm going to say MIT. They created this algorithm or almost like a pendulum type of machine to try to replicate what Jackson Pollock did. And even the machine, they couldn't calibrate to do what he did. Because it was, the thing is, the machine doesn't have the frequency feeling that Jackson Pollock had, even though he's half stewed half the time.
No, that's awesome.
Maybe we should start drinking again. I don't know. But so cool. All right. So the one is the all is one. And another way of looking at it is we are everything and separate at the same time. It isn't this or that. I've used this analogy before, and I like using it, but if you have 5 people up on stage playing 5 different instruments separately, they're still playing one song. So they're separately playing, one's playing the guitar, one's playing the drum, one's playing the bass, one's singing, and they got a backup guitar player. They're all doing it separately, but it's one song. It's happening now. Individualism and oneness is happening now. You cannot separate them from each other. And don't try to wrap your mind around it. You have to experience it. Like me and Mike having this conversation. There's me, there's Mike, but there's this one podcast. It's called Perspective Shift. And even the audience is one in this. And that's it. So that's the second law. The third law is what you put out is what you get back. A lot of people like to use the term law of attraction. I know because of The Secret and the law of attraction, it's almost like the word God or love.
No, it really is.
Yeah, but the law of attraction, it's just that. So the one is what you put out is what you get back is more the scientific understanding. So what does that mean? If I feel good and I step into the unknown, I'm going to get something that feels good back. But I can't anticipate what that is because I've never been here, nor would I want to. I don't want to watch the same movie 1,000 times so I don't get caught off guard. I want to step into a new movie every time. So remember this. Why would you want to live your life that way? So when I step into the field with choosing a frequency, and we label this joy, sadness, happy, mad. These are just frequencies that we as humans labeled, but they're just frequencies. And if you get away with good or bad and just put preference and not preference, it's an easier way. One day we won't even have to use preference, not preference, but for right now, because if I prefer something, doesn't mean I have to hate the non-preference. But if it's good or bad, we try to get, we need to get rid of the bad thing. I'm like, no. Well, preference, I prefer this. We'll move towards that. The thing that you don't prefer, somebody prefers it, so leave it alone. So whatever field of energy we're in, we're going to get exactly what we want, but it's going to come at us in a way we've never seen it. So if you're angry, you're going to get a whole lot of new angry. And if you're excited, you're going to get a whole lot of new excitement.
And if you're sad, you're going to get a lot of sad.
Yeah. And so that's the third law. So what you put out is what you get back, also known as the law of attraction. The fourth law is change is the only constant in the universe, except for the first three laws, always remain the same. Change has nothing to do with humans. Like, I need to change. I'm like, you don't need to change. Change is happening. If you let go of a concept, you'll change in this moment of exhilaration. We tend to like to hold on to things. This is where change becomes laborious and scary. But just like the monkey bar theory, I must let go of this and go this. But the movement and everything else of change, I have nothing to do with it. I'm just witnessing it and experiencing it at the same time. But I'm not the causation of change. I stepped into change. People think, I changed things. I'm like, no, you experienced change and added your imprint of perspective onto it. Because someone's like, I don't like this change. I love this change. Well, we didn't create the change. The change was created. We're now experiencing the change. And this is where our perspective, that's where the free will comes in.
Well, it's funny because our mind bends things in so many ways.
Like spoons?
It's the thinking mind. And it's until we detach from that, we're putting impressions that are so conditioned, we don't even see it. And we don't even,
no. But I also believe that's part of what we call human history.
But this is also the awakening that you and I are discussing.
That's it. And we've always been awakening. Mm-hmm. All right. So, like I've talked about, I've heard this before. I think I've talked about it before on this podcast. But what was interesting is they've come to an understanding. It's a different perspective. Someone's like, well, we actually use 100% of our brain, but we only utilize 10% of our DNA structure. So however you look at it. And from one perspective, this biologist, like a quantum biologist, looked at it and was like, we ought to be further along. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, yeah, that's his right to feel that way, but why do we always have to demonize where we are? I'm like, how do we know we're supposed to be further along? Maybe this is where we are. Maybe this is part of the story. So if you're watching a movie or reading a book, why should the characters develop in the way you want, but why the hell are you reading the book?
You want to
let it go. Like, stop pulling another book into this book. We don't know. We don't know if we're supposed to be further on. Maybe this is the joy of it.
You know, my favorite, how every news station is, we're in a critical time.
Oh, it's
we've been in a critical time since
I was
2000. Every single news cycle.
The day I was born,
this is a critical time. You're watching. I'm seeing these different decades pass, and you're like, what?
Can you imagine the first?
We've been in a critical time for a long ass time.
Yeah, the critical time started when Adam ripped his rib from and created Eve, and that was just critical.
Ultimately, what we're saying is anything's as critical as you make it.
Yeah.
And it's also not as critical as you allow it to be.
You know,
when you start allowing things to simply be as they are with no impression of mind, the flow starts to happen.
Yeah, everything is knowledge and information. We just dramatize the knowledge and information.
Everything's a prop. I like when you call it a prop because we assign meaning to a prop.
Yeah.
Just like we do with our mind about anything, a person we see, we judge them from the moment we see them, because we're carrying around these different projections in our mind.
Yeah.
And projecting them onto others.
And because human beings innately, this is not something that we work on necessarily, but we learn to let go, is we're innately efficient. Now, my efficiency opposed to Mike's efficiency is going to be different. One isn't wrong, right or wrong. But when people are up against something or continuously spinning on the wheel, they automatically notice the lack of efficiency, and this is where the problems come in. So it's, what is it I'm doing? I'm like, you're reading from the teleprompter, and we already heard that speech. When you actually step and unplug the teleprompter and just allow the energy flow, you then become in the path of least resistance. But the path of least resistance ought not to look like a certain thing, because we're stepping into the unknown. We don't know what it looks like. But we know what it feels like. We know what the path of least resistance feel like. When I'm like, the days where you're running out of your house, shit, I forgot my keys. But the you forgetting your keys was preceded by you feeling aggravated or frustrated or late. It was me feeling late is why I ran out the front door without the car keys. Not the frustration it become because I left the car keys. And if anyone's honest with themselves, that's exactly how it happens. When I'm completely at peace, I can be walking towards my front door and be like, oh, my keys, and go grab my keys. But when I'm running out the door, I'm going to be late. I run out the car, I make it to the car. Okay, the keys. I'm not frustrated because I left the keys. My frustration is why I left my keys. And so then when I get frustrated, I'm running back to, and I'm like, and I start to smile, and I start laughing, talking to myself. And that's when one of my neighbors comes out. I was like, hey, Frank, is everything okay? I'm like, yeah, it's okay. Just having a conversation. I'm on the phone. Yeah. Now you can use the excuse that you're on the phone with somebody. All right, I don't see the earplug in your ear, so I got the really small ones now. You can't see them.
The clear ones.
Yeah, I got the clear ones. Jesus, hold on. Yeah. And but once I start getting frustrated, that's when I start to laugh, because I forgive myself for getting frustrated, because I'm not perfect, nor am I trying to be perfect. I allow the imperfections of life, because what I deem the imperfections of life is, that's the art of discovery into something new. So avoiding imperfections, it's like cutting a wave in half, and I mean a wave of life. It's like separating the trough from the crest. I'm like, stop that. But when I understand frustration, I don't get upset at it. I laugh at it. It guides me back into that place. But I'm glad it's there, because it keeps me closer on track. So my swaying, my balance is here, not boom, have to get up, have to get up. Boom. But now my balance is here. It's a dance now. I can live with this balance. This is stagnation. This is no life. This is the balance I want to stay in. Sometimes I'm like, whoa. But yet, when you stay in that balance, this is the dance of life. But sometimes you have to trip. Imagine, some Fred Astaire tripped, or even Michael Jackson tripped before they got it down.
I love how you just described that, because that flow is a perfect way. We're always in that movement.
Yeah.
And that's
life.
Is truly the path of least resistance.
Yeah.
So I got a funny story. Path of least resistance story. So I went to the dentist this last week, right?
Oh, you should have started with
and
that.
So Frank and I think about maybe 2 months ago.
Isn't that funny? Like the dentist.
Well,
to all the dentists out there, we appreciate you and understand fully.
Thank you for your hard work.
Yeah.
So
just put the drill away.
Right. So Frank and I were talking about this maybe 2 months ago. I was like, hey, dude, I was reading about the calcification of your pineal gland. And the pineal gland, that's your third eye, kind of where it sits, right? And so I was reading about it somewhere or whatnot, and I mentioned to Frank, I was like, I'm going to try this fluoride-free toothpaste, right? Because that's going to get it, Mike. Again, look, guys, watch the mind at work. Exactly.
It's a permission
But these
slip.
are why we like to share these. Is like, because we can witness them too. We witness this.
Yeah.
And so you see the mind, it's like, all right, I'm going to use some fluoride-free toothpaste. I'm going to decalcify the pineal gland, right? Yeah. And so been doing that, a month and a half, 2 months, whatever. And my doctor, I had an appointment for a teeth cleaning. And so I go into the dentist, and I sit down. I'm like, all right, I want to ask, my dentist about this. Figure I, run it by him.
Oh, the fluoride
thing?
Yeah,
type of thing. And,
does he think you're a nut job?
Well, that's what I'm sitting there. I go, all right, so how am I going to describe this to my dentist? Okay, so I'm trying to decalcify my third eye. Like, what am I supposed to say to this dentist, right? And so
he's like, I got a drill that can calcify that for you.
I go into the matrix, so I'm like, okay, hey, doc, like... So what I'm trying to, do is I started using fluoride-free toothpaste, and the reason being is for mental clarity. That was my best matrix way to describe it.
So did he take his notes out? I'm like, oh, we got a crackpot here.
No, luckily, he actually was like, it's funny you say that, and he's like, I have heard about recent science, studying, these types of effects that you're referring to as regards to mental clarity, right? Because you don't want to tell your dentist, hey, I'm trying to not decalcify the third eye, right? Yeah, then you sound like some crazy person. So it's funny watching yourself navigate.
I'm going to say it to my dentist.
These waters. Well, it's something I bring up, right? And so he's like, Mike, you drink soda, right? And I'm like, yeah, I usually have like a Coca-Cola with dinner, Yeah. He's like, and you drink coffee in the morning, right? I'm like, yeah,
What are you getting at, Doc?
I do like coffee in the morning. And he's like, okay. He's like, well, based on what you've described, he was like, the way, the acidic, properties of these different beverages, blah, 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 they wear down your teeth. And the fluoride, how it works, is it compounds. And he's going into all the gibberish and the details. And of course, I'm allowing it and I understand. But what I realize is I'm watching the mind work, and it doesn't matter what way I think. I can see that whatever way I think is how I will feel.
Yes,
and so I'm watching my mind being like, wow, whatever impression I want to put, I can take a fluoride stance, I can take a non-fluoride stance, and you start to laugh with it. And this is the path of least resistance. And so after
it's like a tennis game.
He talks to me, and exactly, and I say, thanks, doc. And I was like, I'm going to go back to using fluoride toothpaste.
Yeah.
And the reason I said that to myself is I watched.
You don't want the enamel.
It doesn't matter. Well, I look at it and I go, okay, so the path of least resistance to me with a conditioned thought of, hey, this, and then you start to see the layers.
I just gave up Coca-Cola.
Yeah, that's what I should do. My path of least resistance through my conditioning, is to use the fluoride.
Yeah.
But then you could have the mind say, oh, no, Mike, you're no longer spiritual because, you would do this. If you don't use the fluoride, you're going to calcify your pineal gland. Guys, this is what we're trying to share with you. Watch the mind just run wild, and you got to sit back and laugh at it and go, wow, this is what we do all day long in our heads.
Yeah, that's why we make up stories. Actually,
we're all making up stories all day long.
It's funny you mentioned that. A friend of mine actually went to the dentist and actually had this conversation.
About the pineal gland?
And how fluoride's bad for the body, and not just pineal gland, but other parts of the body. And the dentist's like, well, what we do is we put this fluoride coating on the teeth where it won't get into your bloodstream. Oh, sign me up. And it's funny because, the doctor told him this. Because, when you actually brush your teeth...
I don't think that's possible, but...
Well...
when I hear that,
my point is this. Mike, everything is
absorbs.
possible.
Yeah, right.
Everything is possible.
No, truly.
In other words,
we're creating it.
What makes it possible is buying into the story. And there's
exactly.
nothing wrong with it. So for the dentist, he says, well, when you brush your teeth, you can't help but to swallow some of that toothpaste. So therefore, the fluorides get into your bloodstream. But when we lace it on your teeth, it dries up, and it actually just forms as enamel. It doesn't get into your bloodstream. Now, the thing is We could play this tennis match all day
And that's
long.
it. It's recognizing the tennis match.
Yeah, so, but yeah, if you know your enamel's going to break down because you're not taking fluoride, figure a way to take the damn fluoride and not worry about your pineal gland.
Path of least resistance.
Because I could tell you how to break the calcium off your fluoride. Or off the fluoride. Off the pineal gland. Just go like this.
And realize, hey, you're
times.
playing against yourself, buddy.
It's chiseling it away,
You're
buddy.
playing against yourself, buddy. Because that's what we're doing, guys. We're in a constant game of pushing ourselves into checkmate and realizing we're only playing against ourselves. So
Yeah.
we're just running around in the mind. And when you can just
Well,
I
actually,
see it.
we're playing against ourselves when we don't follow our beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
No one ought to tell you what to believe.
You'll know. It's a feeling. You know what's
I'm
true.
saying even if you gravitated towards a belief of a religion and you were born into it, if you actually fully envelop that and fully go with it, it will work. Where we get mixed up is you think this should be the only belief on the planet, so therefore you actually interfere with other people and try to get them to believe your belief. So how do I know a belief works? Well, let me ask this person over here. I'm like, no. Like if I believe putting fluoride on my teeth will keep the enamel strong, the enamel will be strong. But that's not the real causation of why it's strong. But that's a deeper level that even the greatest biologists and the greatest physicists still don't know to this day why. But what they do know is however we look at something, we can make it so if we stick to it. But what happens is somebody say, I believe in this. I'm like, but do you feel the belief? That's the difference. I can say I can believe I can make $1 million by tomorrow, but do you feel that way? Because if you did, you'd be out shopping for $1 million house. So if the belief verbally said and the feeling do not match up, there's a disconnect and it doesn't work. That doesn't help you. It's like looking. It's like looking out the front windshield of your car, but you slip the gear into reverse. You go in the other direction. And you're going to soon crash or disrupt it. If you're not moving in the direction in which you're looking, it's very uncomfortable is the point I'm trying to make. If you have a belief and you fully believe it, you'll see it working. You don't need to ask somebody, hey. So people are trying to look at the belief. It's not your beliefs you need to change. It's trusting in your belief. And because the fourth law in which we started this conversation with, change, your beliefs will naturally change over time. They'll naturally change. Just like me and Mike, I've changed since high school.
I was just going to say, look at how often you've changed over the years.
Yeah.
You are not the same person that you were when you were 16.
Even though if
everyone at home knows
even
that.
if you take a certain cream or whatever, and I can maybe...
That's how you know you'll change.
I could
Simply that.
Yeah, I can convince society I've slowed down the aging process, but I still don't look the same as I did in high school. So then I could say, well, I don't look older. I just look different.
Well, no, I'm glad you
Especially
kind
about
of said that
plastic
because,
surgery.
that's how I started getting into all this. Is like, I
Why the hell would you get into this?
Well, no, when when we were first speaking and talking about this, I remember watching, and it's the type of thing where you see that there's truth in this. That's why anybody at home is listening. Is there's this higher party that's like, yeah, this is truth, and then there's this other. And it's the conditioned mind, it's the ego mind, it's the thing that's saying, you can't do this or you can't do that or what's this or you got more important things to do. It's difficult, guys, to disassociate from that because you've lived in those patterns for years.
It can be difficult.
Of course.
Yeah.
It's all how you look at it.
Yeah.
But I get it. And it takes trust and it takes faith to move forward and know that there's truth in this. And the only reason you're listening to this right now is because you know there's truth in this. Yeah. And so when you have that feeling and you're like, hey, I'm going to give myself a week, and then that week turns into 2 weeks. And then you take this stance where you just realize, wow, this is truth. And so you're working towards this truth.
Yeah, there's a shortcut.
Mm-hmm. Well, then you recognize what you're seeking is yourself, and you've already found it.
And there is a shortcut because every time in my past, and even once in a while, that old paradigm will run through my brain. If there's a pattern I don't like, I say to myself, I'm going to give it a week to change. And I realized, what am I doing? I'm changing now, right this second. I'm going to change the way I look at it and perceive it differently. If I wait a week, I'm going to get to that next Friday or whatever day of the week it is you started, and I'm going to reevaluate it, and you're back in the mind spinning around. Do it now, not Monday, now. And when you start doing that, you'll never have a New Year's resolution. You'll have a resolution every moment of every day. Now, I get it. You know, staying in the moment, we get kicked out of there. But once I get kicked out of the moment, it brings me back to the moment. Just like the grooves on the side of the freeway, when I get distracted, I hear digga, 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 digga. I just simply drift back left into the lane and drive smooth. So frustration and anger are these alarm systems that now I'm glad I have it, because it doesn't let me get too far out of the place where I was. But now I can get back to quick. If I had to get quick, you know? And so the present moment is the only place in which you could witness change. Not create it, but witness change. And what is the change in how you witness is how you perceive the moment in which you are. And then all of a sudden, you're down a different road, and then the outside world starts to change. You can't help to see it change.
And when that outside world starts to change is when you become a witness to all of this.
Yeah, I'm not telling you...
because you see that you're doing it.
Yeah. I'm not saying look out a window of an alleyway and see a brick wall and think you're looking at the ocean. That's delusional. I'm not saying that. But you can look at the window in the alleyway you're looking upon, look at the brick wall, and notice the beauty of the red bricks. And like, wow, next thing you know... You're like, wow, you're going outside, you're walking down, you're looking at bricks. Next thing you know, a year later or in the moment, as moments go on, you find yourself looking at the ocean. But you have to find beauty in that brick wall across the alleyway in the window you're looking at. But you can't be delusional of saying, that's an ocean. No, it's a beautiful brick building. And when you do that, you then find more beauty in the world and more beauty in the world. And one day, without even thinking about it, I was like, holy shit, I'm in a brick house looking out at the beautiful ocean. That's how it happens. But you don't even see it coming.
And I love that you said that, because a lot of the problem with this new agey shit that's coming out,
new
guys,
agey shit.
Well, no, is this idea of...
I'll kick your ass, new agey people.
Let's take the old program of you hate yourself, you're poor, blah, blah, and change it to you are the greatest, you are the best, you will forever be healed, you are abundant. And it's like, yes, all of those things are true, but until you believe them, none of them become true. And so by you simply saying this is that, and you're changing, you're giving one system for the other. So Frank and I telling you to not scratch the surface.
No, flipping the hourglass still has sand running through it. It doesn't change, it'll get rid of the sand. So it's
seeing the operating system from above.
That's it. Yeah, just flipping it around doesn't help the situation. In other words, if I tell everyone, hey, the left side of the boat is the best side of the boat, so everyone goes to the left side of the boat because everyone wants to be on the best side of the boat, what happens to the boat? Yeah. So we get up like, oh, let's try the right side. What happens to get to the right side? And I tell everyone, just mingle in the boat. Wherever you are is the best part of the boat. And people naturally mingle in a very balanced way, and the boat will not tip. So
in our natural state, we're all symbiotic.
You don't have to be like,
we're
hey,
all working
okay,
together.
Yeah.
I'm playing a role in Frank's story just like Frank's playing a role in my story.
The universe is the choreography of this world, not us. We interfere. If we just listen and be present, you'll know how to move. You know, think about the choreography that's in dance. Well, they're teaching other people how to do it. But where did they get it from? Wow. Did they have... Oh, I learned it from another choreographer. Well, where did he learn or she learn it from? Again, it's like the Russian dolls. You keep going, you keep going, you keep going. Where does it end? Never ends. So stop going backwards and start here right now. We are in this present moment, always and forever.
What you're looking for, you already have.
Yeah, what changes in the measurement of time is this: every present moment I have, I offer a new perspective onto it, and then we can only measure in time. Time is a measurement, like a tape measure. The tape measure isn't the causation of this house being built. It just allowed the dimensions of knowing how to get the certain size door I wanted, but it wasn't the causation of the door. It just measured the door.
Look at time as a tool that we use
Like
in
a
the
measuring
third
tape.
dimension. Yeah,
a
exactly.
measuring tape. It's not the causation of anything other than a measurement. How we feel is the true causation, not the outside world. How we feel and then give attention to something brings it into light. So, the basis of what we call quantum physics is a double slit experiment. I'll go through this really quickly. They took a machine that shot electrons out.
Okay.
Right? So look at electrons being shot at as almost like paintballs. All right. So you have a board with two slits in it, say 1 inch wide, 5 inches long, side by side, and behind it was an observation screen. This is a plain blank screen. So if I'm shooting and I'm observing, if I'm shooting these paintballs through it, the ones that go through will imprint onto the wall exactly where the bars were on the observation screen. So that's what we call classic physics, right? So what happens, you shoot enough, you're going to get, say it was yellow paintballs, you're going to get a yellow bar here, right? Exactly behind where the yellow slits are, where the slits are. But what happened was, when they left the gun on that shot electrons out, and when I say they, the scientists that were doing the experiment, and they walked out of the room, when they returned, they noticed a pattern that couldn't have been done in the understanding of classic physics. In other words, they had the two slits here, and behind it, the observation screen. In the middle was the most dense bar. Then there was a space, then bars on each side, and that pattern continued. So it was bar, space, bar, space, bar, space. And as you get further out from the center, the bars became more elusive, like less dense. And they realized the only thing that can create that is a wave. So we realize in the physical world, when you're not observing it, everything is a wave. And what is a wave? Infinite possibility. What's a particle? Particle is actually what it is you focus on. So a particle is the potential. The probability is what the particle is. But the wave is infinite possibility, and the focus on something is the probability and the potential of it. So once we give witness to something, so how I feel, think about that shooting out of you like the electron out of the gun. That will leave the imprint on the world. Wherever I look, the motorcycle will go. But once I look onto something, how I feel is what creates the painting. But the feeling.
I love that. That's super important.
That's a
because you're
very
right.
simplistic way of explaining the double slit experiment. But that's pretty much a gist of it. I'm sure there's physicists out there that can explain a lot better than I. But
we have proven through quantum physics that our observation onto something
and how we feel about the observation
gives it light, shape, form.
Yes. And then we offer up our perception to it, and then that gives it depth or
that
meaning.
Is how we create the matrix.
That's it.
Yeah,
it is the matrix.
Yeah. That's what we're describing.
That's it.
Everything around us, and it's very, very comforting when you get in tune with this, because it feels good, and you feel at one with your surroundings, and you feel in that flow that Frank was describing.
Yeah, the balance point. Yeah,
and everything feels right, and that's how you know that wow, I'm onto something.
Yeah. So when you're not feeling right,
that's your body telling you something.
Yeah. If you're reaching for something outside of you, yeah, that can distract you momentarily, and you start to feel good, and you're feeling good just because you're distracted from the thoughts that are taking you out of the balance. All right? But what happens is then you become addicted, and that becomes a new vice. So when you're starting to feel out of balance, close your eyes. All of a sudden, the wave starts to do this. Because what gets us out of balance is a distraction from the outside world. So if I'm driving my motorcycle, like Mike was explaining, and I'm trying to make a right-hand turn, and I see a girl in a bikini over to the left, I'm probably going to get hit by a car.
I'm going down.
Because I am not looking right.
I am going down.
I am going down, baby. And then Karen, what happened? I'm like, yeah.
I don't want to talk about it.
I don't want to talk about it. Yeah.
A kitten came out in the middle of the road.
Yes. A kitten.
I had to steer to avoid it.
I didn't want to hurt the kitten.
I had to steer
So I ran
to
into
avoid
a
it.
truck.
And it's so funny because like these are the things our minds come up with when we're put in these situations with our significant others, with the people we love, and it's fun because we're all just playing our roles.
Yeah, exactly.
And when you have fun with it,
yeah,
and you can be two souls together sharing an experience, like Frank describes with Karen, like those moments where she just probably looks at him like, you shithead, like those are
that's every moment.
Yeah, but like that is such a soul moment where it's two souls looking at each other and understanding like this is beyond form, this is beyond male female, this is
spirit, and that's what it is and we actually come
in
here,
union,
yeah, because we come here to dance. Like actually, I remember Alan Watts talk about this, and I thought it was really brilliant. But he goes, when you actually watch two people dancing, and he goes, really dancing, you do not know who's leading. Yes, in the world that we live in, the man always leads. The man might start off the dance, but when the dance goes like this way and that way, where's the beginning of the circle is the question. It's a circle. You could put a dot on the circle and call that the beginning, but it's not.
And it's funny because like the mind, we have to classify who is the lead. And those are the concepts that are just so ridiculous
you can't
that
find
we put on things, guys. So when you can start saying like, why
So
do I
who-
even need to
so-
why do I have to assign and
Yeah.
coordinate a specific thing to everything?
Yeah, so it's more like not who's leading, but what's leading. And what's leading is this energy field that we fall into. So when two people are connected through this synchronistic value or this
It's like, that is.
yeah, and all of a sudden you move and you feel each other. And actually when you
It's
first
that symbiotic
I
relationship.
remember like in 7th grade, I was at a dance one time, and and the girls asked me, so I was nervous, and we're clanging into each other, right? Until she made a comment, and I started laughing, and because I laughed, my nervousness ran out of my body, and next thing you know,
Your frequency
we were talking,
changed.
my changing. Next thing we were dancing, and next thing you know, we were in the woods. No, I was kidding. I'm just joking.
That's funny.
Yeah, that was a week later.
But right.
I never made it to the woods.
Man. But those different frequencies, that's what's fun, is because any moment can change it.
Step into it. Yes.
Yeah, at any point we can think, we have this idea where when we're in a bad situation, it feels like the world's truly going to end.
And it does, but it really isn't.
It's the
instinctively
knowing
it's not.
that, wow, the mind always makes things out to be the end of the world.
Yeah.
Move through this.
So the crux of this is knowing the 4 laws in which were explained here, and know how they work. What is your job? Your job is to detach and just observe. And in the observation, doing will occur. You naturally do. Like, even if you're reading a good book and you're going to get energy or inspired to go do something, all of a sudden the energy field will make the body do something. The sun will make a flower move towards it. But the flower just allowed it. It just did. It was a connection of energy. So it becomes effortless. When you try to do something to feel good, oh my God, there is no way to do that. There's not enough doing on the planet to gonna feel good. Feel good and watch the doing unfold. Right? And people do that. Like, I recently read an article about these people at Merrill Lynch that were complaining because they were working 100 hours. I'm like, at what point... if I was working 50 hours, I'd be complaining. They made it to 100 and they're starting to complain. Like, at what point did they not realize this is not working? And I'm like, I can't even conceive that. But it's because they thought if I could work a couple more hours, and they realized this is not working. Like, how many more hours can one work in a day? I'm like, 100 hours. Like, come on, what are you working 20 hours a day with 2 days off? Or are you just working? You just do the math. Come on. But they thought they can get there. And they realized, no, because you're still trying to get the outside world to make you feel better. Feel better. And guess what? You're going to do something for 100 hours every week.
Whether you like it or not.
Yeah, so it's not about you cutting back on hours. It's what you're doing. Are you present?
That's it.
For the week, or are you actually searching, looking for something outside of you for that? That's the exhausting part, by the way.
And when we're seeking, guys, when we're searching.
Oh, it is exhausting.
It is. And it's that mental exhaustion.
Yep.
It's that tired that no amount of coffee, no amount of sleep can take care of. And we all know this feeling where I slept 8 hours, I'm drinking iced coffee, I still feel like crap. What the hell?
Yeah.
You're mentally exhausted.
That's it.
You're running in the mind.
But if you're in a good place, drinking that coffee is exhilarating.
Absolutely.
Doesn't mean you have to quit the coffee. This, again, that's the other thing. It's like flipping, like go to the left side of the boat.
It's all permission
Stop drinking
slips.
coffee.
Yeah.
Now you're angry and pissed at everyone, right? Giving people the finger. Like, drink your coffee.
I like to use the boat example because
Yeah.
it's kind of like, I do need to use fluoride in my toothpaste. Oh, I don't need to use fluoride in my toothpaste. And it's funny because
wonder why you're
either
seasick.
way doesn't matter.
Yeah, you're going to get seasick doing it.
Go with the path of least resistance.
Yeah, it is. And the path of least resistance is already played out. It's this place here.
Yep.
Is this movement. You're going to sway to the right. You're going to sway to the left. That's part of the physical world in which we live in. That's balance. This is stagnation. This crumbles. But this is balance. I remember when I was a little kid, I was going from the North Shore of Long Island over to Connecticut, so you had to go across the Sound. And on this particular day, the water was really rough. Now, I've been on boats before. I never experienced seasickness. But I remember in this boat, and all of a sudden it was really rough, so I sat down and I was holding on to something, and I started getting sick. And I remember the second mate, it was a woman. She goes, come here. I'm like, what? She goes, hold on to this rope. And I'm out on the bow of the boat. And it's a good-sized boat. And she goes, as the waves come, move with the boat. All of a sudden, my nausea, it disappeared because I was moving with the boat. And I watched these people that work on the boat. None of them were sitting down. They're all moving. Now, I don't know if it was her grabbing my attention that distracted me from being nauseous or seasick. But then I've learned to actually move with stuff, not hold on to, not tie myself to something. Be pliable. Be malleable. Don't solidify.
This is what the Buddha taught.
Because when you turn around, you turn into a pillar of salt, right? You start to solidify your life. Look forward, and you'll be malleable your whole life. You look back, you solidify. You actually lose a frame of reference in time. But stay present and look forward, and you'll always be malleable.
And that malleability Frank's talking about, that is no attachment.
Yeah, so you can mold the clay any way you want.
Yep. Because no matter what way it comes out, it just is.
Yeah, you don't like it, change it. But it's not that you don't like it, you're always building upon. So, I used this before, I don't have to knock the tricycle in order to make it to the bicycle. Because the tricycle served its purpose. You look at the great artists, they actually marvel if they're still alive at the time when they look at the art, what they consider the world looking at their masterpiece, the refinement of their craft. But they tend to go back to the point where they started, and they look at that, and all of a sudden that piece of work will be sold for $32 million, right? Because it was their first dwelling or doodling or whatever, however you want to call it. But it was this crafting and honing, and up to the moment when they could hold a paintbrush or a chisel, whatever form of art they were doing, a pen or typewriter or microphone, doesn't matter what art you're doing, you're always refining it. I don't care if you're 10 or 100. There's always room for refining. You're not dead until you're dead. You're not done until you're gone. I don't care how old you are. You don't put your paintbrushes down and wait. You hold those paintbrushes till and the brushes drop. Right up to the very last moment. I don't care how old you are. These concepts don't just apply if you're young. They apply if you're 99 years old and you're still breathing. And guess what? When you transition out, these principles still apply on the other side. just not the physical world. It's a different thing. That's for another day.
I like that.
Yeah.
One quick story. I heard Ram Dass saying this once, and it was a good, analogy or way to look at this. So there was this gentleman he had a farm, right? And he had a horse on that farm.
McDonald?
And the farmer had one of his horse run away. And the neighbor saw the horse, escaped from the barn and ran away. And they came over to the gentleman, the farmer, and said, "Oh, we're so sorry that your horse has escaped." And he says, who knows, right?
Yeah.
Who
Good
knows?
news, bad news.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Who knows? Good news, bad news. Who knows? Yep. I love that you know this.
Yeah,
so good.
it's a great story.
And then he says,
I was that farmer.
Yeah. And then the next day, the horse comes back, and it's got a horse with him.
Yeah.
And so he brings 2 horses. So the neighbor comes back, and he says, "Oh, this is great news! You have 2 horses." And he says, "Good news, bad news. Who knows?"
Yeah.
Right. And so at that point, next day, I'm trying to remember what happened. So he's got both horses, and his son is working the farm. His son jumps on the horse and begins to ride the horse, at the farm or whatever. And he falls off of the horse and breaks his leg. And the farmer comes over and says, "Oh, my God, I can't believe your son broke his leg. This is horrible." And he goes, "Good news, bad news, who knows?" So then the next, maybe 3 days, 4 days later, a group of gentlemen come riding in, and it's is it the army of his nation? It's the people of the nation or whatnot, saying, "We're looking for all men to fight in the war." And so they come to us to help us fight in this battle, right? And they come up to him, and then they see that the son has broken his leg, and so they say, "We can't take your son. He's no use to us.
Yeah.
And we must leave." And so they pass by, and the son gets to live and stay. And the neighbor comes over and says, "Oh, this is great news." Again, good news, bad news, who knows?
And that continues. That line continues, because even you're like, "Oh, the kid didn't have to go to war to fight," but there's always going to be another broken leg and stuff like that. And if we go through life with, good news, bad news.
It's the not assigning a meaning.
Yeah, but what it is then I can generate a frequency, and I can make these peaks and valleys even deeper. So, a roller coaster like this is pretty cool when you're 5. But, come on, I want to feel this. So then I can actually make these deeper. But if I build a roller coaster 100 feet in the air, I have to come down 100. That's just the laws of physics, baby. What goes up must come down. But do not listen to what goes up must come down. Stop going as high as you can, because the downward is the exhilaration. That's when your stomach comes up into your chest, and then you shoom, and that uses the momentum to get higher. So the way I enjoy living life, and I try this most days, is start here, come here, here to here. So I'm using this continuum of moving up. I'm not staying flat. So I'm here, boom, here, boom, here, boom. So this is natural, positive projection always, at every moment of my life. It's because I perceive that. And that's what we're talking about. It's not a flat line of boom, because this is boring. But this is exhilarating. And then it is this natural projection of unknown experiences. And you're going to keep looking, because when you look down, depending how tall you are, the ground is that far away. But when you look up, there is no ceiling. There is absolutely no ceiling. So even the universe, in the aspect of negativity, has a floor. A ground. Because from New York, when I say floor, I mean floor. Floor. Floor.
Yep.
I'm going to pronounce the R's just for the audience out there.
I mean the ground.
I'm in the
ground, sir.
Yeah, ground. Yes. Floor. Floor. Yeah. Floor. But when I look up, there is no ceiling. There is no end to this. So the brilliance of the aspects of these laws, the negative aspect, the one that breaks life apart, there is a floor to it. There is an end to it. There is a bottom to it. But the ceiling is wide open. And that's the brilliance of it. So you can live in this trajectory of this, and keep going higher. It's like walking up a mountain with switchbacks. That's how you get up. This way is a little more rigorous. This way is easier ride. Path of least resistance. And that's our perspective.
Thanks for joining us tonight,
Yeah.
guys. If you like what you heard, stick around. Subscribe at the link below. We're here each week, and we appreciate you.
Yeah, we're here and there and everywhere.
All at the same time.
All right, peace out.
Thanks, guys.